Okay, guys, here is our next reclining nude in the realist period. This is called Olympia, and she's probably one of the most important pieces that you guys will learn about for not just realism, but for modernism in general. I've seen this piece on either in some form on a multiple choice, which we won't have in the year 2020, but I've seen this piece on multiple choice exams and also on the free response questions and the long essay questions. So this is something that the College Board is really pushing because it's a great comparison to Titian's Venus of Urbino. So I'm going to explain about Olympia and then also kind of go back and forth on the differences between Olympia and the Venus of Urbino. So this one is done by Edouard Manet. And remember, don't be confused with Monet. Monet is the one who did all the water lilies and a few other really important pieces. But Manet is the one that is known for realism. He actually is considered really to be the first modern artist. And that has to do with a lot of different things. But with the invention of photography, art was seen by some as needing to represent kind of a new way of representing reality. Because we're going to talk about photography in a future screencast. But now that they can depict exactly what people look like with photography, they see that art needs to be something that's a little bit more like have some kind of a social commentary to it, or have there's ulterior motives to a lot of the art pieces we're going to be learning about that isn't just as clean cut as a visual like the Venus of Urbino. So Manet is going to become known after exhibiting at an exhibition called the Salon des Refusés, or the Salon of the Rejected Ones, for Olympia. The Académie des Beaux-Arts increasingly opened salon exhibitions to non-Academy members, which resulted in a surge of number of works submitted and inevitably would be rejected by the salon jury. And after the salon jury of 1863 rejected a number of works that we consider modern, a special exhibit was established, just like Courbet did, of the rejected works, and that created a response and protest for all 3,000 rejected pieces. The salon was still created under the formal system. The Emperor of France at the time, Napoleon III, who's the nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, said he wished for the public to judge the legitimacy of the complaints and exhibited the work at an alternate location. Napoleon III ruled as Emperor of France from 1852 to 1870. However, even in this alternate setting, the work caused a scandal because the title actually alludes to an ambitious prostitute by the same name in a novel and play by Alexander Dumas the Younger. Olympia is going to be kind of like the stage name used generally to refer to prostitutes at the time. And this piece is almost exactly a response to Titian's Venus of Urbino. The Titian's Titian will copy Venus of Urbino while he's in Florence, and then he's going to kind of establish a more modern view of the reclining female nude in art. So Manet's modern interpretation and style is intentionally provocative and breaks the rules of the subject matter and composition. So how does he break the rules of the subject matter? Remember that Olympia is a flat out name of a prostitute, whereas the nude on Titian is acceptable because of the fact that he named it Venus or goddess, and Manet's not playing with that. He's just going straight out saying that, nope, this is a prostitute piece. So let's see. So at first it seems like the painting is supposed to be like an homage to Titian, because that woman in Titian's Venus of Urbino was, the model was probably a courtesan of Venice. And then also the composition is very similar. But Manet made his modern counterpart actually the antithesis of Titian's reclining nude. Just to compare some examples of how they're different, Titian's female on the right is curvaceous and softly rounded. Manet's is angular and flattened. The Titian's colors are warm and rich with the reds and the deep greens and the light greens and the whites, where Manet's colors are cold and harsh. Titian's Venus, she's looking sort of coyly up at the male spectator, whereas Manet's Olympia appears to be coldly indifferent and gazes down at us, indicating that she believes she's in a position of power and we are subordinate. Similar to the fact that they also included a black servant who brings her flowers at the foot of her bed rather than her holding flowers in her hands. So there's also like playing on the fact that there are colonialism aspects to this piece by including a black servant. Another thing that's going to be a contrast is that in Titian's piece there's a sleeping dog, and we know that the sleeping dog is supposed to be a symbol of fidelity or faithfulness, whereas Manet has a black cat right here, and this cat actually is even arching his back, and that's supposed to be considered a symbol of lust. So Titian's servant in the background attend to their work, and they look like they're, just busy getting her ready, whereas the Manet's servant is bringing Olympia flowers, which was probably a gift from either a grateful or a prospective client. In reversing Titian, Manet overturns the entire tradition of the accommodating female nude. So nudes in the past had been idealized, which shifted the focus from the naked woman to the artist's technique instead. So the reason why I included the Cabanel's Venus right on the bottom right is that it was painted in the same year as Olympia was painted. And this one was shown at the official salon, and it was highly acclaimed and popular. And again, female nudity, still up until this point, was considered acceptable because of the allegorical associations, like the fact that it's called Venus, or a literary reference. And Manet's piece clearly does not do that. In regards to style, it is unprecedented because there's a lack of molding in the female nude. It has large strokes of thick, rich paint, which hadn't been seen before. It's not quite impasto that we'll learn about when we get to Van Gogh, but it's, again, like Courbet, using a palette knife to place paint onto the canvas. Basically, the figures all look as if they're flat cutouts that are just sort of dropped in on the environment. This piece is very unsettling to viewers at the time who were used to controlled gradations of shadow to model a smoothly rounded form, and it was placed logically within mapped out spaces on the canvas. He used very loose brush strokes, and Manet is interested in the viewers seeing that this is painted. I mean, he wanted to make it clear that this is definitely like a creation out of someone's mind. It wasn't supposed to capture a reality, not simply an illusion of real life. And so this sets a new course for the avant-garde painting in the 19th century as artists begin to turn further and further away from the prescribed rules of painting. So not surprisingly, critics vilified it when it was exhibited in the Salon of 1865. The rejection included his loose brushstrokes and flat areas of color, and the clear disrespect he had for proper subject matter. But ironically, the resulting success from Scandal helped establish Manet's career as a radical avant-garde modern-day artist. Manet generally submitted his work to every salon show, but when several were rejected in 1867, he did what Courbet had done in 1855, asserted his independence, rented a hall nearby, and staged his own show. So this made Manet an unofficial leader of a group of progressive artists and writers who gather at the Café Guerbois, that's in the Montmartre district of Paris. And these men include, at this time, Degas, Edgar Degas, Claude Monet, Pissarro, and Renoir, all of whom would soon exhibit together as Impressionists and follow Manet's lead in challenging academic conventions. So that's Olympia and the Venus, comparing to the Venus of Urbino and Cabino's Venus.